Hey guys, this is First Seed Sports coming at you live, back with another grab bag video for the week of August the 17th. We wanted to run down a few important things that we have today. First off, we wanted to talk about the signing of Everson Griffin to the Dallas Cowboys. Sadly, last week, Gerald McCoy went down and ruptured his right quadricep in his knee on a non-contact injury. Nothing happened. But he just collapsed, and it's really a sad thing. One thing to note, Dallas did put a stipulation in his contract stating that if he did re-injure that same quadricep injury that he had coming into the Cowboys, that his contract would be void regardless of the extra stuff that was added on. So he does get to keep his signing bonus, but the rest of his contract was void. So Dallas picks up Everson Griffin, and it wasn't because of the injury, but it was a great signing. He was a free agent for a long time. You had the Vikings and the Seahawks looking at him, and he ends up with the Dallas Cowboys. And as a Dallas Cowboy fan, I love the move. I think it's a great addition to the defensive line. I think he comes in right away, and him and Aldon Smith are going to bring a new presence to that defense, and will hopefully let Dak do his job on offense. So other than that, we're going to move on to the Kittle and Kelsey contract extensions. I'll pass this one off to Zach.
Right. So I'm sure that you guys all saw there were two massive signings this week between George Kittle and Travis Kelce, two of the premier tight ends in the league. It's really become a personal preference. Who's one, who's two. They're basically interchangeable, actually, at the 1 and 2 spot, I would say. Kelce's had the kind of stranglehold over the fantasy number one, but Kittle's not far behind, I wouldn't say. And I think that what he provides on the field with his blocking prowess kind of makes up for maybe what he lacks in the receiving game compared to Kelce, but I don't think anyone will call him lackluster by any means. So Kelce actually signed after Kittle. Kittle kind of paved the way. He signed this is Kittle, signed a 5-year, $75 million contract with $40 million guaranteed. Pretty good money for a tight end. And Kelce followed up with a 4-year contract, for 57 and change, $57 million over the next 4 years. So I think that begs the kind of point, it reset the tight end market. I think it's finally catching up with the NFL, how important the position is. For a while it was neglected when really it felt like Gronk was the only option at tight end for a couple of years there. And it's finally starting to level out. I would say that there's maybe now between 6 and 7 tight ends in the league who I would say are of, not necessarily Kittle and Kelce caliber, but are of the upper tier of tight ends. So that kind of got me looking into some things, and I want to pose a question to you guys. Looking at one of the upcoming tight end classes, I see 3 young names that are starting to be up and coming tight ends. I see Evan Ingram, I see Mike Gesicki, and Mark Andrews. Let me pose a question to you guys. Of those 3, which would you be most comfortable giving a big contract to like that? Kyle.
We talked about this before, but I think I'm going to go with the younger guy, Mark Andrews. And I think that's in part of him being the younger one, but also what he was able to do last year with Lamar Jackson. He showed that he could join Kittle and Kelce in that top tier of tight ends. Mm-hmm. And I don't see him really separating much, but he'll definitely join in and be a top tier tight end for the rest of his career. So I'm picking Andrews.
Mike?
Yeah, it's hard not to pick Andrews. I believe he's the youngest of the bunch, as you pointed out earlier. And, I just think he's vital to that team. Lamar Jackson, I still I'm not a hater on Lamar Jackson, but I still have faith that outside that tight end position, he's not going to be the most successful passing this year. So I really do think that Mark Andrews is the most vital tight end out of that group of 3 for his respective team.
So I'm actually going to differ from you guys. I think it's Evan Ingram. I think that he has always been injury prone. I don't think any of us are going to argue against that. But I think that with seeing that money get thrown around, I think he has it in him to be that caliber of a tight end. I think he is a receiving beast he leaves a little bit to be desired in his blocking game. But I think that he is very similar to the build of a Travis Kelce. And I think that seeing that contract get thrown around might incentivize him a little more to, if possible, not get injured and maybe take care of his body a little bit more. So I think that that's going to be my pick in Evan Ingram. I think he's shown some positive things, and hopefully with a young quarterback, there's going to be some rapport, and we could see a really nice season out of him.
I was going to say, I think with Daniel Jones, I think we could see a great season from Evan Ingram and great couple years going forward from him.
Yeah, I think that with the receiving options there, it's kind of, you got a bunch of like 6 and 7 out of 10 receivers, whereas Evan Ingram can be an 8, 9, maybe even a 10 out of 10 tight end. So I think he's a special talent for sure. But we'll move on from there. Speaking of Evan Ingram and being injured, Kyle, I'm going to pass it off to you for our injury section.
All right, so I'm going to chat with you guys a little bit about some guys who got hurt this past week or are returning from injury. First, we got Chris Carson. He took a little bit of leave of absence just for some family issues. I believe there is a death in the family, so nothing to be concerned about. Alex Smith has been activated, and he has been practicing. Coming back from this shattered leg, he's killing it. I'm rooting for him. Jerick McKinnon finds himself back at practice. Will we finally see him play for the 49ers? He tore his ACL 2 years ago, and then complications with surgery, I believe it was last year, held him out again. Nick Chubb, a guy we talked about a lot last week, suffered a possible concussion. He left Tuesday's practice a little bit early, and from what I have read, he's been chilling. He's fine. He's participating in meetings, but he's not participating in practices. AJ Green had a hamstring tweak. He missed Tuesday's practice and has not returned, and I believe I saw that he is not participating in Friday's scrimmage. That does not excite me. Jalen Hurd, wide receiver for the San Francisco 49ers, tore his ACL, and he is out. And actually, that interests me for McKinnon for fantasy purposes, for that receiving game, and opens up some avenues. I saw that McKinnon is killing it in the receiving game. He can beat almost every linebacker. And I saw Shanahan mentioned with certain routes, he can be the best deep threat in San Fran, which is kind of crazy to believe, him being a running back. And then Tyreek left with a hamstring injury today, and that also doesn't excite me. I don't know if you guys saw or have any input on this.
Yeah, I for sure do. Being a Tyreek owner last year, that hamstring killed me. He only played 12 out of 16 last year, in part because of the hamstring. And unfortunately, with being as explosive and as high percentile of an athlete as he is, those injuries are going to be kind of exacerbated and overblown even more, just because that little tweak means so much to his athleticism. So unfortunately, it's kind of a give and take situation with him. When he's on the field, he's amazing, but obviously having muscles being that large, that many things can go wrong with him. So the hamstring injury scares me. It's a soft tissue injury. Never really a great thing, but I think we're still far enough. I believe we're 21 days today exactly from NFL football. So I think that's enough of a timetable. I don't think he needs to practice necessarily. I think he and Pat know what they're doing. So they can put him on the shelf for a couple weeks and hopefully he's ready to go for week 1. I'm not necessarily dropping him in my ranks at all.
Right, and I'm kind of seeing a trend with that too, with some of these smaller but more defined and faster guys. Tyreek Hill, T.Y. Hill, and the hamstring injuries are deadly, and even A.J. Green. But I didn't want to cut you off, Kyle. I wanted to run back up the list a little bit of some of the injuries. I am very excited for Jerick McKinnon, as you said, and I wanted to just make a point out there. We were talking about this earlier today. A lot with the injuries and training camp and stuff. Some of them you got to keep an eye on. I think some are not as serious as other ones, and I think it's being very overplayed by certain analysts and people in the fantasy community right now. Obviously, dudes like A.J. Green who have a a very long history of being injured. That's something that is not pleasing for any AJ Green owners, such as myself in Dynasty. But things like Tyreek Hill, although it is a serious injury, I firmly believe that he will be resting for probably the rest of the training camp period before week 1. And I think some of those guys, little tweaks here and there, they just take a quick rest compared to dudes like AJ Green who have the history, and that's definitely haunting. So it's definitely something to keep an eye out of. But use it to your advantage, for fantasy leagues. Use it to your advantage. If you think the injury is not that serious, tell your friends, get online and say it's serious, and if you think it's not, if you think it is serious, downplay it and let somebody reach for him in draft. So it's definitely a way to play with the injury report as well.
I think that
great draft strategies there.
For sure. I think that there's two kind of groups that you need to worry about with the injuries. I think the young guys you really need to worry about. If we would see an injury with Jonathan Taylor, just to throw someone off the top of my head, that would be worrisome because he's missing valuable camp time. And those older guys like AJ Green, like T.Y. Hilton, who constantly have nagging injuries, those guys you have to worry about too. But that middle ground, the Tyreek Hills, the I don't know, just to throw in it, Zeke, like guys like that. I think if they tweak something here or there, they're veterans now. They know what they're doing. They're okay. So I think it's, like Mike said, it's all about kind of shaping it how you want your league to see it and letting them run with it. Don't be scared off by some of these small injuries.
Now here's a doozy. Miles Sanders suffered a lower body injury. He is considered week to week, but everybody in the organization is not worried about it. They say it's just rest, relaxation. They're taking it easy with him. I would guess because Doug Peterson came out and said that he is their guy this year, and they expect to increase his snap percentage. So I don't think that this injury, the fact that it's not even specified what type of injury it is, just lower body, they're not worried about it. They're taking it easy with him.
Right. I definitely think that is one of the situations where a player has a minor injury, and you know what? Instead of going out there like he has something to prove, he's going to take a seat and he's going to relax and get his body right for week 1.
Yeah, I think it does kind of pop the idea into your head that maybe it's not a bad idea to look at Boston Scott in round 12, 13, 14. If Sanders, if he is banged up, if he isn't exactly as healthy as we thought, that's a steal. Boston Scott's about the only guy there, so he's going to see time on the field, and he's a PPR guy too. So I like the value on Boston Scott, but I'm not worried about Sanders.
Right.
All right, Mike, you want to bring us home with some Hard Knock chat?
Yeah, so last week, episode 1, we noted 2 things that I mentioned. I saw that Justin Herbert looked really good, got a lot of praise, and there was a lot more of that in the second episode. Justin Herbert got praised a lot by Anthony Flynn, the head coach of the Chargers, and he loves him. And during the episode, they were going through some of his cadence issues, which is always a rookie quarterback issues, just making his cadences the same for runs and pass. They were stressing how important that is and stuff like that. So Justin Herbert continues to look good. Another thing is A.J. Dillon. So this is a little bit outside the fact of Hard Knocks, but the dude is an absolute monster, and we're comparing him to guys like Saquon Barkley and his running style and his size and stuff like that. And it's just it's amazing to look at some of these younger running backs. And that leads me to the point of the Chargers running backs. They got 3 running backs back there: Austin Eckler, Justin Jackson, and Joshua Kelly from UCLA. They didn't really get shown a lot. If you guys were watching last year, the Oakland Raiders were on Hard Knocks, and Josh Jacobs was hiding from the cameras. He didn't want to be on the cameras. He was camera shy, whatever the case was. But it didn't look like these players were avoiding the cameras. It just didn't seem like they had a lot of focus on them. So maybe that's a sign. Maybe that's something to look forward to. It's definitely something to keep up with and see if Joshua Kelly and Justin Jackson come into the light a little bit more and see what they can do.
Yeah, for sure. Mike, I want to backpedal to A.J. Dillon real quick. I want to pose a question to you guys. does the AJ Dillon video, if you guys haven't seen it, I'm sure all three of us will have it retweeted on our Twitter, so you can check any of our Twitters and find it real quick. But for either of you guys, did the AJ Dillon video make you fade Aaron Jones a little bit, make you second guess your ranking of Aaron Jones? What are you guys feeling?
Definitely had me second guess, but not enough to do anything about it. I like Aaron Jones this year. It's weird because he's probably the major guy going into this offseason that I was not high on. I realized he just scored a ton of touchdowns. He had 19 touchdowns. That's insane.
Mm-hmm.
You don't normally do that back-to-back years. But looking at the numbers and doing projections, he's one of the only guys that I looked at and was like, whoa, I didn't like him. But now he's kind of tempting.
Mm-hmm.
And seeing AJ Dillon, all the hype, all the pictures, all the videos of how massive those legs look, not enough for me to really move Aaron Jones. I'm still taking him, mid, late second round drafts. Doesn't scare me. I'm still happy to have Aaron Jones on my teams.
Right, yeah, and I would agree with you there, Kyle. I don't think it's enough to bump Aaron Jones down in my rankings or anything. If anything, it opens my eyes up to who A.J. Dillon is and his potential a little bit more, which is always important with some of the younger guys. But, yeah, that backfield, I don't see A.J. Dillon getting more than not even 40, 50 carries this year. They still have Jamal Williams there, and I know that that committee it's a committee, but it's not a committee in Green Bay. It's one of those weird committees. So I don't really know where AJ Dillon fits in that system, but it's definitely something to look forward to.
It's weird because I think if you looked in the dictionary for weird committees, you would see 2019, 2020 Green Bay Packers running back.
Yeah.
Just one last point on that. I actually saw a chart on Twitter. I don't know who, I don't remember off the top of my head whose account it was from, comparing A.J. Dillon to Derrick Henry. It was basically that they were the same player, but A.J. Dillon was a little more productive in the pass-catching game. I don't think that it's going to go that far, personally. I really don't. I was kind of thinking of a comparison, trying to rack my brain of some of the – yeah, because Aaron Jones isn't a big guy. I think he goes 5'9" or 5'10". He's not a big guy at all. But immediately, I'm going to give you guys a name from the past year. The combo that kind of came to my mind was 2017. Correct me if I'm wrong. Jerick McKinnon on the Vikings and Matt Asiata. Asiata was a massive bruiser of a back. He was their goal line guy. And Jerick McKinnon was that, first, second, third down guy. And every once in a while he needed a breather, and they would bring Asiata in. I think that that's a pretty similar comp to what we're going to see. I don't think that they're going to put the weight of their offense on Dillon's back. But I think he could steal a couple touchdowns from Jones, just enough to be kind of annoying. But I don't think it's enough to fade Jones by any stretch of the mind. The receiving upside for Jones is going to keep him on the field.
Mm-hmm.
So –
All right,
fellas.
You got it. I'm sorry, man.
Go ahead. No, you got it.
All right. Well, yeah, that's all we really had for the grab bag. Do you guys want to add anything else? Anything else you guys are thinking of? For us personally, if you guys didn't know that are following, we have our own draft this Saturday. Mm-hmm. So we're really excited to get going and have a great draft day. So anything you guys want to add?
Nothing from me.
All right. Well,
no, I don't think anything from me either. I'm getting excited. 3 weeks out.
All right. Yeah. Well, that's it for the week of August the 17th, and we will see you guys later.
See you.